6빛 하시오.这个不让你可能是
上学期的我就很火。
我也没有。
我现在我在网上发一个。
我直接把它给用了。
收到学校发的邮件，新年快乐是吧？
好，实际上是个人，我看是个人，说明是学校，但是刚才说了，说了那个应该是微博，还是跳中国学院。
Okay, guys. Start the magic thing. So, today we are going to be starting the third lecture. But before I start, have you got any questions about the previous lecture? Maybe? No? Okay. I would classify this lecture as the first of the core lectures in this module, whereby we start covering the details of the architectures we are going to be studying in this module. Okay, and this is going to be an introduction to the architecture of high-speed or high-performance internet switches and routers. Okay. Now, what we're going to see today, we are going to try to define what a router is. We are going to talk about the architectural components and functions inside the router. How did they become to be as we know them today? Routers have been around for the last 30 plus years. Okay. We'll study their performance and limitations. How do we assess the performance of a router? And we'll see some architectures of the switching, which is a component inside each router switch. Okay. Now, this figure here is a small schematic that could represent what the internet is about. Okay? So the trend nowadays is you got end users, you got access network. We have seen this in the first lecture, if you remember. Okay. And then you got the core. Then again, as you go down, you will find some sort of access network somewhere there. And then the end hosts again. Okay. Now, the technologies used are the access networks. They will be modems or DSLs. And as you go at the core of the network, you will find some sort of optical networks. Okay. For circuit switching and high-speed transfer inside the core of the network, okay? And then, of course, you got the end hosts. Now, this simplified version, there are four traffic going between computers, and in order to have computers communicating, you will need some sort of protocols, which we covered last week, right? And then the way they get routed from one hop to the other until they reach the destination. Okay. Now, packets, as they go from host A, let's say to host F, E, they would be following certain routes. And as you can see now here, when I say packets, we are obviously talking about packet switching. Yes. There are the two technologies of packet and circuit switching. But we usually refer to the IP networks to be packet switching based. So data is communicated in the form of packets. Okay. So now, in order for this type of traffics, you see these different packets from different end hosts. In order for these to reach their destination, there must be some sort of route. They have to get routed in the path. Okay. So these packets, they'll be routed in a smooth way, and that function, there is a routing protocol running in the end hosts, and packets, they would carry some sort of metadata headers to tell them the path along the way how do they reach their destination. Okay, that's in a simple way how it works. Now, what I was going to say here, I'm going to tell you what packets are or what are the functions in a packet switch. So these are supposed to be packet switched routers. Okay, they are a router and they are packet switched because they are based on packets. Okay, so these are the functions. So typically, when you see this R1, for example, it has input interfaces here, and then it routes traffic outside. Right? So it's a device that has inputs and outputs. Okay. So the ingress line card, which is the input interface here, this part, what does it have? Have a number of functions there, and these functions they are usually implemented either in software or in hardware. You find them in sort of circuit or in terms of a software reality. That's it. Okay. Now, any of these components of these routers, they could be classified into three parts, main parts. The first part is the input of it. This is called input. The middle part is called the middle stage, or the interconnect. Okay? And then you get the output. Okay? Now, each part here has certain tasks to do. Now, when traffic comes in, the very first thing, there must be some sort of frame to adapt the incoming frame, for example, to make it packets, okay, or to make it understood by this router. Then, the next step will be, or the next function that will be implemented in this router, in its input, it's called a route lookup. This function is extremely important. We'll go back there. By the way, these I described them last week in terms of steps. What an IP router do when it receives packets. Then there is another function that's called TTL, time to leave processing. This TTL is a field in the IP header, in the TCP header, remember. Okay, or the IP header. Okay. We'll study what that is. Then there is another function inside the input of a router that is called buffering. Buffering is storage, queuing. We will study what buffering is. Extremely important again. Now, this is the input, and as you can see, there are a number of them. I'm putting 3 here because there are multiple inputs. As you may understand here, for example, it has a number of inputs. So there could be many inputs. Then comes the interconnect or the internal stage. That's extremely important again. This interconnect is the middle stage that connects the input interfaces of a router to its output interfaces. Okay? So there is a middle stage there to connect different line cards. Okay? Now we will again study what is this in lots of details. Of course, the third part or the outgoing part is called egress, which means exit. Egress line card, which is the output side of a router. There might be buffering there. There is quality of service scheduling. We will study what is that. Here to prioritize traffic over other sort of traffic if you need to do. Again, framing to put the packet on the line. Okay? Because here you do framing and input, you do it at the output. Here there is something again very important, which is called the interconnect scheduling. Or scheduling, depends on what you call it. Okay? This is again an important part of the router. When you have multiple line cards trying to access this shared resource, there must be some sort of prioritization. And that's extremely important. As you can see here, I'm putting the legend here that says this path is called control path. The fat line is called data path. And the dotted one is called scheduling path. These three are extremely important again. When I say data path, for example, as you can see, data path refers to the places, the stages by which every single packet going through the router has to pass by. Is it clear what I'm saying? Data path, this one. It means all the traffic going through the router has to pass through that. However, control path, as you can see, it's skipping a number of places. Control path, this is for routing table update control path. updating the routing table of a router does not happen frequently. You don't do it for every packet that comes in. However, the data path, these places, they must be visited by every single packet that goes to the router. Okay? This is important. We'll describe what is that. And of course, the scheduling also, as you can see, it's at the heart of the data path. So in order to pass from here to here, you have to go through this because you need to get access to that. That's important. So also the scheduling path is considered to be at the critical path, at the data path. So every single traffic that passes by must go through some sort of scheduling, prioritization. We'll come back to this because if you would like to study the performance of a router, you have to understand how it works and what are the critical functions there, or the critical blocks. And if you need to improve upon it, you have to know which parts you need to improve upon. So this architecture is quite important. Now, I must say that the title says functions in a packet switch router. Packet switch router. If this has to be circuit switch router, it will be different. Because remember we talked about circuit switching and packet switching last week? And the circuit switching data does not go in packets. So you don't need to do, for example, route lookup. You do it in the beginning. Remember the connection setup when you make a telephone call? And that's it. These are functions in circuit switch. See the difference between these two. This one does not have route lookup, does not have pair processing, does not have buffering. This does. This does not, sorry. The circuit switch does not have any of these additional ones. Okay? It's much simpler. So one may ask the question, why does a circuit switch router does not have buffering in the input? Can anyone tell me why?
It's a connection.
Sorry?
It's a kind of connection around the service because the link is almost preloaded and
You don't need to wait. Yes.
Because stability is made before any packet is sent.
So there is no need for buffering. Everything is pre-allocated, it goes direct. It's like the train. There is no traffic light now. They don't wait for each other because they are pre-allocated. Clear? Important. However, in a packet switch, it's not pre-allocated. Data goes on demand, and that's why you will need to cater for some sort of buffering in moments of congestion. Okay? However, in a circuit switch, you will still need some sort of scheduling and control. Okay? These are some examples of existing products. This is called Gigabit Switch Router by Cisco, and this is Juniper. These are two of the biggest lazy giants in router market space.
I have a question in the last two slides.
Sorry?
The first, the other one.
This one?
Yeah, I just want to ask in regarding to scheduling.
Yes.
Is it being implemented in the hardware and in the software? And if it is implemented in the software, how is it going to affect the functionality of the switching, of the packet switching within the
So you are asking me two questions. Is it implemented in hardware or in software? And if it is in software,
yes,
how it is affecting what?
the switching of the packet, especially
How
the
does it
buffer,
affect
the
it?
buffer? Yes, how is it going to affect the buffer process, the processing of the packets?
Well, is it? Let's answer the first part first. Data path functions, including the scheduling part, they are usually implemented in hardware. Usually implemented in hardware. When I say usually, I mean 99.9%. Why? Because they are required to run at wire speed. And if you want things to run fast and at wire speed, they have to be implemented in hardware. Are you following me? You are following me?
Yes.
So it's usually, almost all the time, it's implemented in hardware. And that will obviate the need to answer the question, is it in software? Having said that, it could be in software. And if it is in software, it might affect, what did you say, it affects the functionality, you say?
Of the years of the buffering process.
Time-wise, it could affect. Because when you implement things in software, software will be running much faster than maybe the read-write speed of the buffer. And then you'll have to wait, and you'll have to synchronize it. Okay, that's maybe the way it is. Okay? So here I'm giving, as I said, examples of existing products, and it gives you some sort of ideas. These are very expensive routers, by the way. This has a capacity of 160 gigabit per second, and this has an 80 for that one. Okay. One of the main metrics or features of this, obviously, is the capacity, which is the aggregate bandwidth of router. When you buy it, this is the selling point. Okay. But of course, power budget is also very important for cooling and all that, because they will be sitting in some sort of room to get connected in a rich way. For example, a point of presence. So power consumption is quite a critical thing. Okay. What else? This slide actually is trying to show you from market point of view. These are not quite updated. I should have updated these of what's happening this year. These are a couple of years ago. About the market share, which are the big companies. So as you can see, Cisco and Huawei, Alcatel, Lucent, Juniper, these are the biggest players. Okay. And I would believe that this is shrinking a bit today. Like this. Huawei is getting really lots of ground, and Juniper as well. Okay, so this slide will give you some sort of market share, who is taking most of the market share by these big giants. Okay, I must say that this refers to some sort of markets, because here where it says edge routers, these are different industries. So for example, edge router is different than core routers and all that. So please have a look at these if you're online, okay? And there are lots of statistics. I think I'm taking this from Internet Stats somewhere. We should put the website where you may look at the updated data of this year. They should have something by December 2015. Okay. What else? Now, as I mentioned in the first slide, we would like to talk about what routing is. So we looked at this architecture roughly speaking, and now we would like to look at it when it's running in a network, okay? A live example. Now, again, computers are talking to each other through these routers. So what happens, there will be a packet moving from the end host to another end host. In this case, this computer C happens to be sending a packet that wants to go to computer D, right? Now, upon arriving to router R2, what the router will do, it's being a packet switch, it will do this. Maybe some framing, and then route lookup when it receives the packet. Okay. Route lookup, it's based route lookup, it will look up its destination address and look it up in its local table. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so it gets received by router R2. Router R2 will check that destination address, which is that computer. But router R2 does not know where D resides. All it knows, it has some sort of local information inside it, which is called routing table. And that routing table, what does have? It has two entries mainly. The first column is the destination address, which is contained in every packet header. And the next entry, it says next hop. So it says if a packet comes to me and it's going to computer D, please forward it to interface R3. This is interface R3. Is it clear how this is done? So this router here does really not know where D resides exactly. All it knows, it has some sort of entries, and based on the entry, it will forward. Okay, it's called next hop. This is router count. Once it looks up the outgoing interface, then it switches it. Okay, yes, please.
Why R3 not R5?
Say again, sorry.
Why R3 not R5?
Well, it's choice here. It could have been R5, but now you are telling me why it is R3 and not R5, right?
Yeah.
This is sort of a routing protocol. So the routing, the route path discovery, which is another function that will generate this table. Okay. It could have been R5, yes. It could have been R5. Okay. But maybe for shortest path, to R3, R3.
It depends on the cost between these orders.
It depends
On
on
the cost between these orders cost.
the cost.
That means the delay or
The path cost.
That's the routing algorithm.
Yeah.
That does that, yes. Okay? But it could have been enough. The point here, the point, is that the routing table will contain destination address, next hop. Now, next hop could be R3 or R5 or R1, or that's another topic. Okay? So there are lots of optimization algorithms for the path discovery, which is the routing. Okay? Now, based on the outgoing interface, which is the next hop, this packet will be switched to this interface there. Okay? It will cross that interconnect, which is here again. So it looked it up, where does it go? Maybe it will update its TTL. It may be stopping for a while because there are some traffic in front of it. And the next step to be done, which is based on the scheduling, the packet there that wants to go to interface R3 will be switched to R3 interface, the output 3. Okay? And it waits for its turn to go. Okay. So that's what's happening, and then, yeah, it will be switched to R3, and then from R3, maybe it will move to R4, and so on and so forth. And it is this destination. Okay? And, yeah, so when it reaches R4, therefore it knows the destination address is there, because now R4, router 4, knows what D is. It knows that D is a computer that belongs to its network. Therefore, it will know that this destination address is within its local reach, and then it sends it from the B. Okay. We studied this last week, so I hope you understand the fields there. One of them, the red one, which is the destination address, which is extremely important. Here there are options. We don't focus on them for now, and that's the data of the packet. Okay, and that's normally how networks work. So it's working in an autonomous way, automatic way, but really it's working like the example I gave you there. Okay. Now this is a quite important slide, and it answers a number of questions. What does this slide says? It says basic architectural elements for router. What does a router do? An IP router or an ATM switch, or call it whatever you call it. Let's call it a router. A packet switch router has typically speaking two main functions. Okay, which is the control plane, the data path, and the control path and the data path, which is the switching. Okay. These two functions, the two main categories, two main classes of functions, okay? The way you distinguish them is that one of them is called data path, the other one is called control path. Data path, which is this, it's typically implemented in hardware. And data path functions, they are functions that they should be processed on every single packet that passes through the router. That's why it's called per packet processing, which means every single packet must pass through these functions. I'm naming them there. However, control plane or control path, they typically are implemented in software. Sometimes they are implemented into co-design, hardware software, into a configurable stuff, for example, or an FPGA. Okay? These functions, they are not happening on a per packet base. They are infrequent functions. Okay? And these are the examples. So usually speaking, you would say routing. Routing is the function, the task that refers to routing the packet. Okay, that has to do with the routing. For example, routing table update, or routing protocols, or admission control, or congestion control, or reservation. All of these functions, they are not happening on every packet. For example, updating the routing table of a router to learn about new destinations is not happening frequently on every packet. It happens, I don't know, once a week maybe, or once per day. However, a router is switching millions or tens of trillions of packets per day. Okay? So these functions, which we refer to, as you can see now, we call it a router, we call it switch, we call it whatever, but irrespective of what is called, it has two functions inside it. One is called routing, the other one is called switching. These are the functions inside a router or a switch. Okay? The switching part it's typically implemented in hardware. It includes, for example, routing lookup. So every single packet that enters the router will have to find its destination address, the route lookup. That happens to every packet. Packet classification must happen to every packet. Switching, arbitration, scheduling. All of these functions, they are happening to every single packet that passes through the router, and that's why they have to be in hardware. Why? In order to speed up the process. Okay? Clear? This is a typical architecture of a router. Okay? And here, in this slide, we are showing the these functions here. The per packet processing or the data path. Okay? What happens on a per packet base? Now, in this case, it's a router that has 3 interfaces here. These are line cards. What are typical line cards containing? When you got your traffic coming in, by the way, traffic will come in parallel here. So packets come here at the same time, packets also come here, maybe. Okay. Now, an ingress line card or an input interface or input port of a router, there are different names to it, but they are all referred to the same thing. Typically speaking, you will find some sort of what they call forwarding table, which is the forwarding table is the routing table. And next to it, you'll find a forwarding decision. Based on the forwarding table, you would find the outgoing interface. And based on that outgoing interface, you may need to do some buffering. You may buffer, or you may not. So that's why I'm including some. This will refer to buffering, small buffering. Maybe not needed, maybe needed, depending on the architecture and how much money you would like to put on that router. Okay? Now, after that, what you find the interconnect, which is the middle stage of the router. This interconnect is a shared resource. As you can see, these are physically separate. This is physically separate from this. The only thing that makes this talk to this is this part. Because this is a shared part. Everybody passes through. Interconnect. And that's a crucial component of the router. Because as you can see, this is a shared resource. And it's a place of contention, it's a place of congestion. It's like the roundabout in this thing. All the cars must pass through. Okay. Now the third part here is the output port of the router. Okay? And these are, again, they are different interfaces, different line cards. Now in a real product, you would find this and this, they are confused with this. So they are on the same physical place. But here, just to model it, I'm just showing it in 3 places. Is it clear? Because usually you will find this called I/O, input/output, and it will be here 2 sides. But here, just for the sake of explanation, you see them 3 different parts. Okay? And here it's called output scheduling. In case you would like to prioritize traffic over other, then you may implement it there at the outgoing link. Okay? Clear? Now, what happens on a per packet processing in a switch or router? What are the functions? I described them here, but it's worth having them noted down. Packet arriving into a router, so what happens? The router would accept the packet arriving on the ingress line. So it accepts the packet that comes in. Then what happens? It looks up, or it will look up packet destination address in the forwarding table to identify its outgoing interface. This is what I've been showing you. Then what it does, it manipulates the packet header, for example, decrement the time to leave or update the header checksum for correctness and blah, blah, blah. It may do that. Okay. Then what it does, it sends the packet to the outgoing interface, it switches it out. And then the packet will wait for its turn to go on the outgoing line until line is free. So it may be queued until the outgoing line is free. Okay? And it gets transmitted on the outgoing line. So these are the functions that happen to every single packet that enters a router or switch. Okay? Clear? Good. Now, if the router is an ATM switch, it will be slightly different. So remember we said an ATM switch is a, what is it? It's a virtual circuit switching. Okay? So it's a hybrid design between packet and circuit switching. So you may not need much of this lookup, but what you will instead you will do what is called virtual circuit interface or virtual path interface, and it will maintain a small virtual circuit table, an ATM switch. Then it will replace, then maybe update the old VCI with the new one, then forward the cell, transmit onto the line. As you can see, an ATM switch is somewhere between a packet and the circuit switch, and that's why the functions are a little less than the previous one. Now, if that is to be an Ethernet switch now, because there are different types. In an Ethernet switch is again slightly different, because Ethernet usually is in local area network. It's in a local network, okay? So, and when we talk about Ethernet, we're talking about frames, okay? It's a data link. What does an Ethernet switch do when it receives a packet? It looks up the frame destination address into its forwarding table. Okay? Now, two cases. If that destination address is known, it will forward it to the corresponding port, outgoing interface. If it's unknown, it will broadcast it to everybody. Okay? And that's why all the devices, they listen in a local area network connected to the Ethernet switch. Then what it will do, it will learn the source address of that packet coming in to update it in its table. So it will learn that address. Then what it will do, it will forward the frame to the outgoing interface and transmit it to the link. Okay? Here I'm trying to show you the functions per type of router switch. Okay? Now the big one normally is the IP router, which is this one. This is maybe the ones we refer to all the time. So what it does, the lookup function, which is the first step. So it looks up the destination address in the forwarding table. Here, a key difference between an Ethernet switch and an IP router is when the address is unknown. The Ethernet would broadcast to everybody else, but an IP router would drop the packet, as you can see there. So if the address is known, it forwards to the correct interface, that's fine. If it's not known, then it drops the packet. Okay. Then decrement the TTL, then forward the packet, transmit packet on the link. I hope this must be clear, right? Or it's confusing. Good. So I hope you appreciate the difference between these functions, because this would define why a certain product is different than the other, and why the costs are different, why the design choices are different. Now, some routers, they would have some sort of additional features to make it more expensive. It's like when you buy a car, it says it has a GPS navigation, and they don't know. Routers are also the same. Some routers, they would have special additional features. For example, they would have additional capabilities to give, for example, services on a per packet or per class basis. So there are routers that they would provide a differentiation of services to traffic. Okay. Not all routers have that, but some routers would have these type of functions, and that's a special processing. And other things. For example, the router can perform additional processing on incoming packets classification into IPv4, P6, and PLS, and PLS multi-protocol link switching. Okay? Or it will deliver packets according to pre-agreed service, absolute service or relative service. For example, it sends a packet within a given deadline. There are some users that they would require some sort of priority in the network. And they could be given some sort of differentiation. This is a complete topic, which is quality of services, and we'll cover it at some point. Okay, the routers who are equipped with this, which are equipped with this. They could be implementing some sort of filtering, security, for example. Not all routers have that. Some routers do offer some security features, or treating different traffic in a different way. For example, multicast, telecast, and all that. Okay. These are special functions. They are not required to be everywhere, in every router. Okay. What else I'm going to talk about? Now, it says per packet processing must be fast. Okay. Per packet processing. You know why I'm saying per packet processing? The data path means. The data path, which is this, let me go back and emphasize, because it's important what I'm saying. The data path, no, this one. Hello. This. that's what the slide I'm trying to show you refers to. So the data path, which is this, maybe this, must be fast. Must be fast. Okay? That's the data path. So if you would like to make a router better, you should improve upon all of them, if you are extremely lucky, or some of these functions. And that's exactly the whole deal about router design. There are people who, for example, come up with smart lookup algorithm to be implemented in a router. Other people, they may come up with nice way of buffering, smart way to speed up buffering. Somebody may come up with a nice architecture of interconnect that will improve upon router. Okay? And I'll tell you, every single improvement, be it here or here or here or here, it's a multi-billion business. Okay? And something else I would like to talk about. Every single part of this by itself is an area of research. There are many people who did a PhD on router lookup only. Lots of PhDs there. Lots of PhDs on this. Lots of PhDs on, actually lots of companies on this. So these are different important parts. Okay? And that's why now you would appreciate why I'm saying here, what is it? I'm saying, per packet processing must be fast. And this is some sort of history up to a couple of years ago. What has been happening? So in '97, the aggregate line rates, they are in the order of 622 megabits per second. Okay, they are calling them OC3 maybe. Now, if you consider arriving rate of 40 bytes packets, okay, if you get packets of 40 byte size, at this aggregate line rate, you will have in the order of 1.5 million packets per second. But packets of 40 bytes over a line of 622 megabits per second. We divide 40 by 622 megabits per second, 10 to the 6, you will find something like this. So at this speed, having entities of 40 bytes, you will need to process each one of them in the order, or you will need to process in the order of 1.5 million per second. Is it clear what's being said here? And you can imagine, as you increase this, this also will increase. The number of customers you treat increases. And that's why you will need to have lots of packets, which means the ideal goal, what is it? The ideal goal is to have lots of bandwidth. By the way, nowadays we are talking about 500 gig plus aggregate bandwidth. Actually, we are reaching the terabytes per second. And if you are at the terabyte era, you may think of how many packets per second a router should process. We are talking about billions of packets per second. And if you will have to treat that big number of packets per second, you really need to have the data path working extremely fast. Is it clear now why I'm presenting this? Now, we say per packet processing must be fast, so we are going to dig a little bit inside what per packet processing is, what are the functions there. And based on these functions, we are going to try to see how they are implemented and how can we improve upon them. Okay. By the way, if I link this, or I'll go into more details later, the vast majority of the projects, they have to do with these parts of the data path into some sort of project for you guys to try to analyze what exists and maybe improve upon it. Okay, we'll talk about this offline or later. Now here I'm just giving you an example. So it says packet processing must be simple and easy to implement. In order to improve upon it, so the design goal, it must be simple and easy in order to make it fast. Okay? Memory access time is the bottleneck. This is extremely. Memory access time number 2 is the killer, because we'll come later into the details. In order to do lookup, you will have to access a memory place. Okay? In order to do buffering, you have to access memory. And therefore, actually these speeds are largely dependent on memory access times. if you make a small calculation here at 200 million packets per second, which is somewhere here at 80 gigabit per second, you will understand that each memory access will take you roughly 2.5 nanoseconds in order to access place in the memory and get out. For example, to read a location, to read the packet out, or to write it in. You will have to do that in the order of 2.5 nanoseconds. That's extremely stressing technology. Okay? So that's why we will see now how people try to get around this memory bottleneck problem. By memory, I mean storage, I mean buffering, I mean queuing. Okay? There are a number of ways, and there are a number of memory technologies that they allow you to do fast processing, but they have pros and cons. Okay? We'll study these different combinations. Now, what am I going to talk about now is the router architectural evolution, which is, I think, third part in the lecture. So it's the third title. How routers come to be what we know them today. Now, this is the first generation of routers. Okay? This is called line interface, so 8 ones. So this router, it's called an 8x8 router. Okay? That's a shared backplane whereby all these line cards, they share the same place there. And we'll see how it works, this router. Now, next to these line cards, there is a CPU and a memory. This memory is for maybe routing table, and this CPU will calculate for you how you transfer your traffic from input to output. Okay? It has a central memory, central one. Very important. We'll see what is that. This is the very first generation of routers. Okay? You got input lines, input interfaces here, different ones. And if a traffic comes to this line card and wants to go to this output, before it goes here, it will have to check the memory to find out its outgoing interface, which is residing there. And this is the architecture. This is it. So these are this link might be here, for example. This is the line card. So the traffic comes here. It goes to the route table. Maybe it gets buffered there, and then it exits. Looks like that. So the traffic comes in, gets buffered, then it gets looped up, and then gets out. That's exactly how it works. Okay? Now, the typical aggregate capacity of these type of routers, they are 5 gigabit per second, irrespective of the number of interfaces. Okay? Now, looking here, I must show you the animation. That's how traffic goes per router. So traffic comes on any interface, it will get buffered there. After getting buffered, it will be looked up. And then based on its destination address, it will be switched out. Okay? Now something I would like to tell you, that this part here, this one, that's the shared backplane. And that shared backplane is shared amongst all of them. And as you can see here, every packet crosses this shared place twice, every single packet. Whereas this shared place carries one packet at a time. So it's a contention point, that point. Okay, that's the limiting factor. It's first generation of routers based on software implementation. Actually, this is based on software implementation on a single general purpose CPU. Okay? And limitations, what I was telling you. These are the limitations of the first generation. I'm mentioning them, and they are again written to you. Okay? So the limitations, what are the limitations of this first generation? Serious processing bottleneck in the central processor. They got only one CPU. Yes, please.
So I have a question in the last slide.
This one you mean?
The previous one. Yes, I just want to ask you in terms of, they say like, my router comes up with, they say like 3 line cards, and and it's memory. So I decide to maybe like increase the number of line cards.
Yeah.
I fix other line cards, and I don't actually increase the memory. But the fact that maybe after sometimes I find that maybe like the speed is not the thing is not functioning well. So basically like, and when you try to increase actually the memory, okay, but you find that like sometimes like there is the rotor functionality even reduces. Basically, what is the case scenario always in regard to how the requirements, especially changing or trying to upgrade the line cards and the memory cards?
What are the what? Sorry, what's the question?
The requirements.
Requirements in terms of what?
In terms of functionality, how is it going to affect the functionality of the switch itself?
Okay, there are, depending on the architecture, depending on the architecture, there will be implications. And we will see the details of what you're asking me may be detailed, because when you say I have line cards, they increase my memory and they increase the line cards, this says not much, to be honest. Okay? You did not tell me what type of architecture. Is the memory one-port memory? Is it multi-port memory? Is it a TCAM memory? Is the interface buffered, not buffered? You understand? Where do you put the buffer? In the input or the output? When you answer me these questions, I'll tell you what's the application. So the application depends solely on the architecture of your router. And you will see these in details. It's important what you're saying. You understand what I'm saying? It's very important, but depends on the placement. For example, assume this is the architecture you talk about. Assume. Okay? Now, very good question you ask. We got 3 interfaces in front of us. Good? Clear? Okay, very good. Now, you wanted this router to work faster. What you have done, you put 300 interfaces there. Your business is booming. You are serving more customers. Yeah, very good. And you come up with a memory that is super fast, does not exist on this earth. Clear? This is very good and very expensive. You added more customers here. Naturally speaking, you would expect your performance to go very high, right? What do you think? Do you think it will go high or not? Based on what I said now. Will it or will it not?
It depends on the number of customers.
No, in this case it would depend solely on that shared part, which is the bus. No matter how much you put memory here and how many line cards that are super fast, your bottleneck is that shared place. Okay? Do you understand? So there are implications. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
So it depends on the architecture. That's why this is the key point. We are trying to understand the data part of routing. When you understand the data part based on the architecture, then you will have a clear picture where is your bottleneck, what you have to do in order to improve upon it. Sometimes paying more money will not cut it for you. Putting the latest memory in the wrong place will not cut it for you. It's like, for those who understand, maybe football is a good example. You are replacing a defender with a worse one. Your problem is in the attack. You need to get good attackers. You need to get Messi and Ronaldo. So you should understand where you have to do that. That's why you need Mourinho and the big guys. You got it? The analogy makes sense? Somehow? Good. So these are the limitations of the first generation. So serious processing bottleneck in the central processor, memory and length of operations. So table lookup, data movements, this limits the effectiveness of the processor power because there are lots of interactions between memory and CPU. And of course, the biggest limitation is the last one. Severe limiting factor to overall router throughput is the I/O bus, the shared one. The I/O bus, this one, is this one. So that's the I/O bus. Because no matter how much you make of these, no matter how much you make this bigger, they are still constrained by that shared point, if you see what I'm saying. Okay? Now, what happens, they thought to improve upon this architecture. So what they have done, they come up with what is known to be second generation routers. Second generation routers, what they wanted to do basically, they wanted to overcome that shared bus limitation. One. Two, they wanted also to overcome a little bit this route lookup and buffer memory. So second generation of routers, it wanted to address the limitation of the first generation. Okay, so what they have done here, as you can see, they distributed the buffer memory. So it's no longer, if you remember the previous generation here, the line interface is simply a line. It's a line to treat the MAC address, frame it, that's all. Okay? The second generation, what they wanted to do, they wanted to put part of this here, and also part of that here again, in order to try to offload this process here, this high demand on the bus. Making sense? So that's what they wanted to do. And that's exactly what they did. So they moved bits of that memory to put it here in the hope that when you have traffic coming here, it will not need to go there. Okay? And the route lookup, they put part of it here, the forwarding cache. But this is called cache. It's not a real thing. It's part of it. Okay? You know what the concept of cache is. Cache is a small memory that would replicate subset of a big memory, in the hope that you would find your desired looking information, the data you're looking for, in the cache. But the cache cannot hold a big data. It's a subset. Okay? So this is what they wanted to do. The aggregate capacity is 50 gigabits per second, 10 times more than the previous one, because of this improvement. Okay? However, as you can see, this is back in the days, this was a good engineering thing to do. But as you can see, the guys, they did a work around these problems, yet they are still facing this shared bottleneck. That will stay the same, because they did not solve it, although they offloaded a bit. Okay? So traffic will come now like this, as you can follow the red line. It may, if it's lucky, for example, a packet coming at interface 1 and wanting to go to interface 3, let's say. If it is lucky, it will find destination 3 or destination of this packet coming, it has been in the previous packet, so it's in the cache, the lookup. It's lucky, if in that case, if there is a hit in the cache, the traffic will go like this and come here. But if it's not, we are back to generation 1. This will go fetch it there. And then we are really in big problem. We are in generation 1. Okay? Something else, the packet that comes here may not need to go there to that buffer if there is space there. Okay? That's exactly what happens. So it gets buffered there, maybe, if you have space. You see, it did not go there. If it goes there, it will cross twice. And that's half the million. You see? Okay? This is what second generation routers they have done. Basically, it's a trade-off. I'll tell you something. When it comes to engineering some sort of circuitry or a device, it's always a problem or a matter of trade-off. There is no such thing that's called ideal solution. You come up with a solution, you say this is better than the other one. Yes, I'm going to pay a little bit more, but I'm going to solve this and this and that. Okay? So as you can see, for example, this solution, it's more expensive than the previous one. Why? Because you included here, you made intelligence in the interface. The interface became maybe 4 times as more expensive as the previous one. So you're paying more. However, you are solving a big problem. You are making the performance 10 times better. 10 times better. So it's a question of trade-off. Okay? And that's it. So here it says exactly what I've been telling you. So it's route caching, as they call it, distributed packet forwarding operations based on that forwarding cache, network interface cards. Now it became a network interface card that has some sort of processors and some route caches there. Okay? It added some intelligence inside it. And now packets are transmitted once over the shared bus, not twice. But I must say this provided that you get a cache hit, that your destination address in the cache. If it's not in the cache, you must go to the big memory. But in most of the cases, it's transmitted once, so assuming it's a cache hit. Okay? So the limitations, again, the central routing table is a bottleneck at high speeds. So when you have lots of traffic, and there is no cache hit, you will still need to go to the central routing table, and that's a bottleneck. Another thing, this type of architecture would go with a traffic-dependent throughput. What does it mean, traffic-dependent? If you are lucky to have the traffic is always going to the same destination, let's say, traffic-dependent. Therefore, you will end up with having high cache hits. And therefore, you will end up crossing the bus once and not twice, and that's why it will be depending on the cache. Okay? But if the traffic is not dependent, not uniform, which is usually the case, then this architecture still suffers, I think, because putting this forwarding cache will not help you much, although you paid to put it there. If your traffic is not very dependent, you will always, although you have a cache there, your traffic will always end up going there to look up for the lookup. So this will work only when you have a traffic that has similar destination addresses on the same interface, going to the same interface. Do you understand what it says here? Are you familiar with the cache technology, cache memory, how it works? I see a yes and a no.
No.
Okay. If it's a no, it's the time to have a look on Wikipedia. It will give you the minimum of what I'm presenting here. Here I'm not telling you level 2 and 3 and cache and association of caches and hit rate and miss rate. No, we're not going into details. All I'm saying, a cache is a part of a memory that will give you a subset of your data. And if you are lucky, you don't need to go to the main memory, because going to the main memory is cost. It's time, bandwidth, and cost of power and many things. So cache is a technology that would allow you to improve your processing locally. Cache usually is a part of memory that is on the same die or on the same chip as a processor. So the processing is much faster. You don't need to go external on an AU to main memory, which is the technology in your computer. Okay? But I think it's outside the scope of what I'm presenting. Now, third generation. What happens? Third generation is a class of router that try to come up to get rid completely of that shared bus story. This shared bus, this story. So the third generation tackled that bottleneck. What happened in third generation? This backplane, as you can see it here now, it's like this. You see? It's no longer standing like this. It's line cards, not line cards, it's interconnect, which is this one. Okay? So now it's an emulation of multiple buses in one chip, and that's called a crossbar. Okay? And now you see 500 gigabit per second aggregation. So now what happened? We kept the line cards more or less like before. It's not a cache here, it's a forwarding table. So the forwarding table is all together done there. Okay? And this becomes a crossbar, a multi-bus on a chip that's called a crossbar, for example. Okay? Whereby now multiple line cards could talk in parallel connection. Okay? And now if you get the traffic coming in, it can go in parallel, you see? Because this is a parallel line there. That's called a crossbar. Okay? This has made the aggregate bandwidth jump 10 folds, 10 times. Okay? I'm going to stop in a couple of minutes to give you 10 minutes there. But anyway, let me finish this and then we'll stop. Now, this is called third generation routers, and most of routers today, they are built around this type of technology. Okay? So, it's called switch-based router architecture with fully distributed processors. So, to avoid the bottlenecks, processing power, memory bandwidth, internal bus bandwidth, the third generation tried to address all this together. So, each network interface now is equipped with appropriate processing power and buffer space, which is here. That's the buffer space, and this is the forwarding table. Processing power and buffer space. These are cool. Okay? But of course, this comes at a price. Now it becomes more expensive line card. Quite very expensive. Also, that interconnect part is expensive again. Now, Fourth generation, it's still based on the third generation, but now we are talking about optics multi-rack architectures. Now we are talking about big routers, whereby you are going to hundreds of terabits per second. And these are built around, optical links, and basically it's optics inside routers, what they call them. And you will find the line cards, the interface is this, by the way. This is becoming a big line card where it has racks, classes of different line cards there, different blocks of line cards. So here, with these architectures, you can easily have 1,000 by 1,000 router with 1,000 ports. Okay, and the switch core is in a separate rack, in a separate chassis actually, and you could have them apart even hundreds of meters. Okay, in the big rooms. These are giant routers, and based on these, you can achieve the order of hundreds terabits per second. Okay, aggregate bandwidth. Okay, these are examples of these current generation routers. A number of companies, they provide them. Juniper, Chiaro, Alcatel, I did not put Cisco. Cisco must have a number of them there. Okay, these are just example of products existing nowadays. I think I'm going to stop here to give you a 10 minutes break, and then we continue. Okay?
Australian and window.